It's been a long few months. Or less. You know, that's a long time. I was like, yeah. Oh, is that right? Ah. No, I wing everything I do. Next time I might. It's kind of crazy, huh?
We get that. Well, I think we're about 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. I want to say thank you for being here this evening at our community election meeting. My name's Debbie Geyer. I'm the city clerk for the city of Caldwell and help to orchestrate the elections within our city boundaries here. So I always think it's a privilege to do that. It's always exciting to see people that step forward and say, you know what, I would like to help with the community of Caldwell to make it a better place to live. And that just takes a whole bit of courage in itself. So we thank you for being here this evening for that. So with that in mind, each of you would have received a council packet this evening. The front part of that, good evening. Go ahead and take one. We're just getting into it. That's great. The front packet would be your candidate packet. The back packet will be for the political treasurer. You have the option to be your own treasurer. You do not have to nominate a treasurer. Some of you have already told me that you have registered with the state already. Some of you are still wanting more information about that tonight. So we are so glad that we have representatives this evening from the Canyon County Elections Office that will kind of go through that process with you tonight. It is new as of a couple of years ago. The city clerk has been kind of removed from the process of the political treasurer reports, which, trust me, I was not sad with that at all. More than glad to hand that baton over to the state. But there is a process that is required now that we'll want to make sure that you're all aware of what to do with that. If you come to my office and say, where's the C1 form? You will not see that any longer. It's through a portal situation, so we'll have that this evening as well. At the end, I'll kind of go through some of the other forms that are in your packet just to explain things, and then we'll have some Q&A as well. As you saw on your agenda, we have representatives here from the Canyon County Elections Office. Brandy and Haley are both here to answer questions, and we also have representatives from our own City of Caldwell Planning and Zoning Code Enforcement Division, and we have two gals here, Kayla and Janae, that will be here to answer questions as well for you in regards to political signage. That's always kind of a highlight with the political process. Signs start showing up everywhere, and there are some guidelines with the city code and state code that talk to that we'll go over tonight as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and have Brandy come forward, and she will go through, and in your packet, you'll see the, looks like this, municipal elections, but it's black and white. But you can follow along and make notes if you'd like, and then, of course, there'll be some Q&A at the end. Okay. Thank you. You bet.
All right. Hi, everyone. I was here 2 years ago, and I can tell you last time I was here, there was a mayoral election, and the room was packed. So smaller, it's definitely different. Not to see such a big room, but welcome. Thank you, and thank you for having me, Debbie. I am Brandy. I'm from the Canyon County Elections Office, and so I'm here to answer some questions, but we'll go through the spreadsheet really quick, I've been dealing with spreadsheets all day. Sorry, guys. Do the PowerPoint really quick. My apologies to not only Debbie, but to everybody else. This PowerPoint was actually something that I put together 2 years ago and gave to Debbie, and I did not have time to really go through it and update it. Thankfully, don't give me that look, Scott, I know. Thankfully, not much has changed. There are some small little changes, however, we can go over those. I just pushed this, I'm assuming. Amen. All right. So let's go over the candidate filing dates. So municipal elections are the only elections where you have a filing period. Other districts at this point actually can start filing now. However, you guys have a very tiny window where you're allowed to turn in that paperwork. So that starts Monday, August 28th, and goes through Friday, September 4th. That's when you can come into our office or see Debbie, and it is required that all of these entities do stay open during that filing period. So if you show up at 4 o'clock and they're not open, please give us a call. We'll make sure we get a hold of somebody to get those doors open for you. The write-in deadline is also September 8th. So if you happen to not get there in time and you still want to file, you still have that opportunity to file as a write-in. Now, the only caveat to that is that your name will not appear on the ballot. Unfortunately, somebody's going to have to know that you filed, and they're going to have to write your name in there. If you decide, never mind, this is not for me, you can also withdraw your candidacy. That has to be done in our office by this 22nd of September. After you've done all your paperwork, and we'll kind of go over the details of the paperwork here in a minute, but after you're done with all of your paperwork and everything's turned in, it is the responsibility of the city clerk. Thankfully, Debbie does a wonderful job to get the certificate saying we finalize everything, everything looks great, get them over to us, and then at that point you'll be on the ballot unless you file that withdrawal. All right, so finding your forms. Finding your forms, you can get them at any district office. So here at the clerk's office, I'm assuming, is that where you're holding them? Yep. And then the elections office as well. They're also going to be found on our website at Canyon County on the elections page. So it's canyoncounty.id.gov/elections. All right. So we went over this. The offices do have to stay open. So I'm encouraging, we do have some districts that don't like to keep their doors open. Unfortunately, that's against the law. Idaho code requires that the doors remain open during that filing period. Nope. Hi, come on in. All right. So when you get your packets, it's going to be 5 or 6 pages. It is a really good idea to read through that packet entirely. There are going to be some things that you're going to want to know. When you're doing so, you're going to see that there's a declarations page, and that's basically the page is going to ask you your name, how you want your name to appear on the ballot. But please also remember that you have to be a registered voter prior to filing your declaration. And so the address that you place on your declaration has to match the registration that we have on file. So if you're not sure, give us a call or come down to our office to ensure that your registration is up to date and you do have the correct address on that registration. I'm following along here. Let's see. After you filled out that paper, then the second paper is going to be your petition. So with city candidates, you do have the option to either get the petition signatures, which you have to get those signatures within your district, which would be the city of Caldwell, district boundaries, or you can pay $40 to the city clerk in lieu of getting those petition signatures. It's just entirely up to you what you want to do. That money would go directly to Debbie. So if that happened, Debbie would just let me know, hey, so-and-so's paid their fee and they don't need to have those petition signatures. At that point, I'll go ahead and I have to certify that you are a legitimate candidate, that you are registered, you live where you say you live, and everything follows through. You've got the petition signatures, I have to verify those, or you pay your $40 fee. Everything gets sent to Debbie at that point. She verifies everything, and then sends that certificate in saying, yeah, everything's good. This is just an example of the paperwork. This is from 2 years ago. Again, like I said, I didn't have time to update anything. Nothing's really changed. It's pretty much the same. I believe you have the documents in your folders there on what that paperwork looks like. If there are any questions afterwards and you don't understand something, just come step up to me and we can talk about what those answers might be. Oops. Any questions about declarations of candidacy, how the process works, what's required? No? My email's there. If you do have questions, you're welcome to email me at any time. I'm always next to my phone or next to a computer at some point. Now the big topic, campaign finance. Has anybody done campaign finance before? Isn't it so exciting? Yeah, when we talk about money, that's always gets everybody riled up. All right, so campaign finance. So who has to file campaign finance? You would think everybody, right? That's actually not true. At the point where you either meet or exceed your $500 threshold, that's when you need to file. Please keep a tally, though, up to that point, because if Joe gives you 50 and then Sam gives you another 100, well, accumulatively, you have 150. If you keep going, at that point that you hit 500, you have to report everything that you once did or once received. So make sure you keep that tally, because when that filing time comes, you're going to have to know all that information. You must report within 7 calendar days of the $500 threshold. So you need to make sure that you're getting on there and you're notifying it through the portal. And if you have a political treasury, then they'll be the ones that go on there and do that. But you just want to make sure that you're in there and getting it done in time. If you receive $1,000 or more, you have 48 hours to get that information into the portal and on the site. You don't want to get fined by the Secretary of State for getting them in late. So everything is going to be filed online through the Secretary of State through their portal. If you go online to sos.idaho.gov, there is a campaign finance portal there. You can go ahead and log in. When you do, it's going to take you through the steps. You're going to have your political treasurer information, and then they'll send your political treasurer an email for them to set up their portion of the account. Any questions so far? I talk fast, and I'm sorry. I've had a lot of coffee today. No? Okay, we're good. I'm moving on. So how often do you have to report? If it is your election year, you have to report by the 10th of every month. That's when everything is due. If it's not your election year, so say you won your seat and it's 2024, you only have to report your annual reportings for that year, not every month on the 10th of every month. All right, so this is similar to what the campaign finance portal looks like. Quick little login. It gives you all the information there. If you want to look at the Sunshine Law, which is regarding campaign finance, there's a link to that as well. It's all through the Secretary of State's website, so everything is right there at your fingertips. Another similar situation, you'll see kind of what that looks like there, creating your account. So reminder emails will then be sent out to your treasurer and yourself, letting you know that your filing periods are coming up and that you need to get that paperwork submitted. There is a fee if you don't get it done in time, and that is up to $50 a day. So it can build up pretty quick. So we want to make sure that you're getting those in time. We do try to send you an email, hey, by the way, you're a day late, so you can at least stay out. And we all have busy lives, right? And so it's easy to forget something as simple as that. That's just the filing period. It's pretty easy. It's the 10th of every month. Any questions? Pretty cut and dry. Yeah? All right. Well, I'll be here if you have any questions. Haley is the one who deals with the campaign finance for the most part. She is our financial director, I guess is what we're calling her. I don't know. We changed titles, so I don't know what it is technically. However, and so I deal with all of the candidate paperwork and all of that, so you're welcome to come talk to any of us, and we'd be glad to help you. Thank you.
Of course. All right. With that, we'll just go ahead with our signage for campaigns. And Kayla? All right. We'll get that switched over for you. And as I mentioned before, these two gals are from our Planning and Zoning Department, which has a division of code enforcement. So they do a lot of different things, but one of them happens to be political signs.
Yes.
So go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. If you want to do that on the front? I think so. Okay, so Janae, Kayla, we do code enforcement. We do all the things. Signs are a huge topic. It's gotten really bad in the last couple of years. We have to do our own jobs that we do every single day, plus 60 days before the election and 10 days after the election. So basically 2.5, 3 months. This takes up a lot of our time. So we would really appreciate it if you guys just put the signs where they're supposed to be. And we know that you're not always the ones out there actually putting up your signs, but that you have like a campaign or a committee that does your campaigning. Please let them know where signs are allowed to be. So like the first slide says, 60 days before an election. So once, so I think what is election, like the first Tuesday of November, so 60 days prior to that, they can start going up, and 10 days after the election, all of your signs have to be taken down. And then, no, yes. So 10 days, and then this is going to talk about where we can put your signs, like where are they allowed. So you can put them on private property. So if you anybody who wants to put your sign on their yard, in their yard, they can. And there's actually no set limit for signs. So if this person's really excited for you and they want to put up 50 signs, cool, that's allowed. Where they're not allowed, public right-of-way. So you'll see in this photo as an example, next to these street signs, stop signs, lights, things like that. So signs, banners, or any type of political expression shall not be placed in political right-of-way. So they can't be put on trees, utility poles, traffic sign poles, street poles, or fences. Fences is a big one. On Centennial, as you go up the hill on Simplot, there's like a fence there. That is right-of-way. Anything in front of that fence is right-of-way. The city put that fence up. The city paid for that fence. That is right-of-way. You cannot put your sign on that fence. It can be behind the fence if you get the property owner's responsibility or the property owner's permission. I know that they allow political signs. It has to be behind the fence, and it can't be like on the fence facing the street. There's a couple other areas along 10th. We see a lot of signs by the Jack in the Box on that fence in front of the Pizza Hut. Not allowed. Please don't put them there. Yeah, that's all right of way, yeah. So like as you're going onto the freeway, off the freeway, that's typically all right of way areas. It's public right of way. It's not allowed. So please just don't put them up there. If we see them, we'll take them down. We try and do like a couple days a week where we're out looking for them. If we're out and about and we see them, we'll stop if we can and take them down. And then, of course, we get complaints like nobody's business. So we will keep your signs in our office. Technically, we can throw them away. So we like to keep them because we know that they're expensive. We've never had anyone actually come collect the signs we've taken. I think there's so many that they just don't care. So please just be mindful of that. The vision triangle, it doesn't matter if it's on private property. If you're in this vision triangle, which measures 40 feet in one direction, 40 feet in the other direction, and then you connect the lines, you can see it's highlighted in red. That's the vision triangle. Not allowed, period. We want to make sure it's safe for people to drive, to see oncoming traffic, that sort of thing. No electric signs. I've never seen a political electric sign, but just know they're not allowed. And then on election day, we actually don't, on election day, we're not going to be out there on the street. I think the elections people will be out there. So they're the ones that are going to be policing that, either the employees or they'll call the police department. I think Debbie can probably speak to it more than us, but you aren't allowed to campaign within 100 feet of a polling station. Again, don't call code enforcement for that. We're not going to go out there and tell someone that they can't do that. We would direct that to the police department. But I see you have a question. No electrical signs permitted in residential areas. So, I mean, if they're driving up and down the boulevard, I do know that was an issue. We got called on it. There was really nothing we could do. The day of election, I think they parked their vehicle like across the street. If it was out of the 100 feet zone, nothing we can do about it. Yeah, we...
Just for clarification, there is a large polling site, which is usually O'Connor Fieldhouse, and that seems to be the hub of all electioneers. So we want to be mindful of that, you know, somebody doesn't park their vehicle that has their name plastered all over it within 25 feet of that polling door. So be mindful.
Yeah.
We want a fair election. We want it to be ran politically correct in that way. So we're going to abide by that. But it's actually the polling staff are the ones that kind of have that, which is going to be your county volunteers that actually have purview of that. And if there is problems, they will pick up the phone and call the police department if there's something that has to be moved, a vehicle or whatnot, or someone that is actually ticketing or whatnot in front of that.
And obviously, sometimes it's probably just like a rogue person that really loves you guys, but maybe just try and do your best to inform the people who are supporting you of the rules. So if you like measured from the corner, yeah.
I know in Grandview, when we've done early voting and whatnot as well, that's also applicable, which is usually done at your elections office. So that will be another thing to keep in mind with the county election site as well.
So that's pretty much all code enforcement has. I'm sure there's questions about what right-of-way is. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
Clarify
Yeah.
one thing. Years ago, on our historical area for the residential, the Cleveland Historic District, which happens to be Blaine and Cleveland, it is a very visible district. And it used to be that all of that, so you will have the home, you'll have your own yard, you'll have sidewalks, there'll be another green space in there, and then there'll be curb gutter right to the street. It used to be that in that green space between the sidewalk and the street was considered right of way, and you could not put signs there. However,
We changed our code.
the change in the code says now you can, but again, it's private. It's associated with the residents behind it. So even though we've allowed that, you still need to seek permission. That's just not an automatic thing for you to say, oh, I can go all the way down Cleveland and Blaine and put my signs. You still need to seek permission from the homeowner there. But we do allow that in that time period of the candidacy of 60 days prior to, and then 10
Correct.
days afterwards.
Yep.
But then they need to be gone.
And then they have to be gone, and be mindful of corner properties. It's already hard to see on those intersections. We do our best to send letters all the time to people with vision obstructions, but please just don't put it in the vision triangle. Even though it's technically allowed in right-of-way in those areas, just don't put it in the vision triangle. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't take that sign, but I would definitely move it outside of, like I would go and I would just move it outside of the vision triangle.
And there are some commercial properties in that area
Yeah.
as well. Again, you need to seek permission. There's also some city properties, as in O'Connor. That is total right of way. There is no political signage in right of way.
And along Indian Creek, we see
Even
political signs.
a lot
Yeah.
too. Yeah, so beware of that. If you have questions, get a hold of code enforcement and say, hey, can you look on your map? Are we allowed to do this here or there? But you're right, Indian Creek is a very visible park, and we'll see signage in the parking lot areas often. And again, it's adjacent to the park there, it's all public space. We cannot, as a city, endorse any one candidate. So we try to stay very neutral. That's why you don't see anything in the right of way. Yeah. Okay? Is that clear? Great. Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Carol. Appreciate that. Okay, we're gonna go through just your packets just real quickly here.
And that way, hopefully, it'll answer any questions you might have. Your front one is dealing a lot with the candidate issues, and the back one will be, I have a green one because it's treasurer, right? So the back one deals more with the treasurer, whoever you're assigning for that, okay? So with the candidate one, we've already gone through the PowerPoint, but behind that, there was a sheet there that had to deal with the responsibilities of a council person. We actually have some incumbents that have already announced that they will be seeking re-election of their office. So we have seats number 4, 5, and 6 that will be up for the election this year. Seat number 4, which is currently held by Jeff Williams, he's here this evening. He has already announced that he will be seeking re-election of that position. Seat number 5 is currently held by Councilor Chris Allgood. He is here this evening as well. He will be seeking re-election. Seat number 6 is currently held by Councilor John McGee. He has announced that he will not be seeking re-election this year. So that kind of gives you an idea of the candidacies. With that, this just gives you a real clear overview. This was put together by our city attorney with the powers and responsibilities per city code and state statute of what a council person does, okay? The next one that follows that was the actual candidate forms that were reviewed by our elections office. There's 2 pages that have, or is it 3? Is it 2 pages? It's basically the instructions, yeah. The last 2 pages are actual forms, okay? So it has in there, please note, it says City Council on the right-hand side, and that would be page number 4 in there. City name Caldwell, and then it says seat number and has a blank in there. When you declare, you have to declare your seat at that time. As I just went through, it'll be either seat number 4, seat number 5, or seat number 6. If you are choosing to, you're not declaring, but you're registering first with the state, if you're choosing to do that first step, in which you certainly can, again, it's going to ask you the seat. We do not have precincts in the city of Caldwell yet, okay? There's a state statute now that requires that at the time that your population hits 100,000. We might wait till the 100,000. We might try to start that a little bit early. That hasn't been decided on at this point, but at this time, all our positions are what they consider at large, okay? So that means there is no precinct, that you have to live in a certain precinct like you do with a school board position. You can live throughout the city as long as you meet the requirements per the state statute and city of code to be eligible to be an elector, okay? Now, with that, you'll see a sheet that was kind of a cover sheet that I have put together, and this is for internal use only with the city of Caldwell. I love the state forms. They're very nice. They've redone them, but they're lacking a little information. And we realized that the last election. So this cover sheet will help us to know your contact information as well as the political treasurer contact information. Oftentimes we'll send out notices, kind of an email sort of thing that, hey, this is coming up. If there's a forum, especially, sometimes political forums are organized by various agencies or organizations. We want to make sure that you're there, that you're aware of that information. So oftentimes you'll receive information from my office as the city clerk in regards to various items, including that, okay? Then, following that, ordinance number 3467, which was already kind of gone over tonight in regards to the electioneering process. Here's your copy. So it talks exactly what was spoken tonight about signage and the electioneering process itself, okay? And then there's just a little bit of information from me on here that kind of summarizes a lot of questions, hopefully, about the qualifications to run for a city office. And it says it right there. The candidate must be at 18 years of age. You must be a U.S. citizen. The candidate's primary resident must be in the city of Caldwell. Now, somebody asked me about that a while back. They said, you know, I have two residences. Sometimes I go here part of the year, sometimes I'm here, whatnot. The primary residence, the one that you are registered with the Secretary of State's office, or I'm not Secretary of State, but the Canyon County Assessor's office, and you're actually probably with you as well, I'm assuming for voting purposes, is your primary residence as well. So that is what is the qualifying factor with your primary residence. A candidate must be registered to vote, and that's already been talked about tonight. Make sure that it matches what they have on file. If not, take care of it tomorrow. They're there. And the candidate must have resided in the city limits for at least 30 days prior to submitting for the election, okay, or their declaration. We had a problem with that a few years ago, that there was a property that was annexed in. They thought they were good to go, but when we actually looked at when the annexation was declared as effective, she missed it by 2 days. And so if you are in a situation where you were recently annexed in, possibly with a public hearing and all of that, make sure that you do meet that qualifications of the 30-day. And you can also call our office and we'll let you know that as well. Okay. They already talked about the two possibilities of either through a petition or the $40. The candidate declaration period is stated here as well. August 28th, we open at 8 o'clock, and we do stay open till 5, all the way through September 8th in there. Okay, some information on the back part of this is basically about the campaign finance voting precincts, that we do not have those employment status. Elected officials kind of talks about the benefits of being an elected official in the city of Caldwell. Campaign signs, deadlines, and then the information that's available on our website. Our website, we try to stay up to date with all of the elections. Some of you probably have already accessed that. If you see some errors on there, feel free to say, hey, I'm looking at this, and is this correct? We'd be more than glad to address those as well. Okay. Also in your packet this evening, there was the information about the signage, but there was also alluded to the fact that the state of Idaho puts out what used to be called the Sunshine Law, which is now the campaign finance manual here. And so we've provided you a hard copy of that in your file there. For you, and your treasurer has that as well, okay? And in the treasurer packet, there is some information as to what is required of a treasurer, and there's just kind of a checklist there with information. Also, we have provided important dates. This is really good information that you can share with the constituents, because some of them do not know when they can register early or absentee, what the deadlines are on that. We've tried to provide that information here as well. Those are just important dates that you can help, because we want people to be registered to vote. And if you run across those that say, hey, I would like to vote for you, but I've never registered, you can take care of that easily enough. City Hall can help with that. They can actually do that over here at the elections office. They can even do it at the polls if they bring the proper paperwork. So again, if they say, well, I don't even know where I would vote. Well, again, we've provided you with Vote Idaho. There's information on there that easily access. Maybe they don't have access to a computer, but you could access that for them. Let them know, here's your voting place. If you have questions about the precincts, it'll tell you right on there, their name, if they're registered, it'll tell you based on their address where their precinct is. If you have questions about that, that would be the Canyon County Elections Office can possibly clarify that as well. Okay, so I think that gives you a really good overview of the candidacy process. I'd like to see as many candidates as possible. It's always exciting to help you out with that. If you have questions, we're more than glad. I have 3 staff members in my office as a city clerk, and we're all anxious to help you in any way that we can. If you have questions in regards to the campaign finance, I would suggest that you direct those basically over here to the Canyon County Elections Office more so than my office, since they're basically first line now with that. But we're always willing to help any way we can. Is there any questions that we can answer tonight beyond what's gone on and presented?
Caldwell is report. District, but it doesn't closing up the district.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not caught up in that. I was the Secretary of State at Caldwell in district.
Well, thank you. That probably helps several.
I do want to add a couple things.
Yeah.
You guys, I heard people talking, actually thank you for, my brain was like, oh, hey, you should probably mention some more things. House Bill, I believe it was 340 that just recently passed in the current legislation. So registration laws have changed. So when you're out maybe campaigning in some way, shape, or form, getting people registered, it is now required by law that we physically, we as in the office, not as in you guys, I don't want you, well, I saw their ID. That doesn't work. We have to see their ID and their proof of residency before we can actually let them vote. So if you're out getting a registration card filled out and somebody wants to fill out an absentee, guess what? They're not getting that absentee because we haven't seen those documents. So there's a couple ways they can do that. They can come into our office and just show us those documents to prove their identity as well as their residence. They can also email them to us if they need to, but please keep in mind, just because somebody requests an absentee doesn't mean they're automatically going to get sent them. There are some pretty big requirements now. It is a lot of work on our office. However, I understand the law and why it was created. So, you know, we just move on and do what we need to do. But just please keep that in mind. Another thing that I heard mentioned when we were talking about political signs, please make sure that you're putting paid for by on the signs. If you don't, you will get fined or your signs will be taken down. That is something that is very commonly forgotten. If you've already ordered signs and you forgot to put that on your sign, I've had people print stickers and put stickers on the signs themselves. You do have to state what you're campaigning for. You don't have to be specific to what seat. So you can just say, I'm running for city council for Caldwell. That's all it needs to say. It doesn't have to be any more than that. So just something to keep in mind there as well. There was one other thing, though.
We probably should go over PAC. Can we go over PAC for?
Political action committees?
Yes.
Absolutely. What's the question?
So sometimes we've gotten questions, do they have to register as well as a political action committee in the same way that a candidate or treasurer has to?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. Has anybody dealt with political action committees before? They're super interesting, yeah. So if you, yeah, oh, yay. If, this is a pretty good example, actually. Middleton School District, they were throwing this big bond. This was my first experience with a PAC, so, or not a PAC yet, technically, I guess would be the right term for that. And there was a group of people who had gotten together and were financially campaigning against said bond. At that point, if somebody is opposing or in favor of, thank you, Debbie, of as a group and financially supporting a
Candidate or cause?
yes, a thing, then you do have to register as a political action committee. Same thing can be done. You go into the Secretary of State's website, you click on the PAC, sign up as a PAC. I don't really know what happens after that because now the state kind of sees that in. We get to see the after effects of when you filed and when you haven't. However, the rest of that's kind of dealt with the state. The state most likely deals with them more than we do. So if you do have specific detailed questions, I would reach out to the Secretary of State's office. Cheryl up there is fantastic, and she can answer all those questions for you.
There's a difference with the threshold. It's 500 for candidates, it's 1,000 for PAC. So it's a little bit greater there. But oftentimes, they do a lot of advertising for a candidate or for a cause. And so, if you know a group that's saying, hey, I would like to support you, or all of us would like to come together, let them know that that would probably register in as a PAC, and they need to follow the guidelines.
Absolutely. One of the other things I wanted to mention was we tapped on electioneering a little bit. So one of the things I heard somebody said, I think it was code enforcement, you were talking about like signage on vehicles. Please keep in mind, don't promote this though, but please keep in mind, I don't want 100,000 calls on election day or during early voting. If somebody has signage on their vehicle and they're going in to vote and they're voting, that's not electioneering, they're voting. So they can go in, go vote, and leave, but if they were like loitering around and just pretending to be busy, that's electioneering, that's not allowed. So don't, if somebody's parked out there for a while and you're like, okay, I know they've been here for over 2 hours, it doesn't take that long to vote, then you can give us a call. But just don't assume just because somebody has a Trump sticker on the back of their thing that they're electioneering. How many people have Trump stickers on their cars these days? It's not electioneering as long as it's not sitting there and that candidate's not on the ballot at that time. Yeah.
On this
Thank you,
little,
Debbie.
Sheet here that I provided to you in your treasure packet, it actually does talk about making sure that you provide advertising responsibility with the treasurer. That is, we've had that happen, actually. There was one of the candidates a few years ago that forgot that whole thing and had passed out signs from point A to point Z and had to go back and find all of them and put stickers on them. So be careful with that. On the back of that for your treasurer as well has all the reporting dates on there and when they are needing to be turned in with the portal. So, okay. Well, I think that about summarizes everything, I hope. If you have any questions, we'll stay around for a little bit. Feel free to grab a cookie and some water because we don't need all those afterwards, okay? Again, thank you for your interest in being here this evening. And if we can be of any help, we've provided our phone number and our email in there for the county and my office as well. Feel free to reach out. We're here for you. Thank you. Good night.